I wasn't going to do a show tonight. Episode 133 was not supposed to happen now. But I got inspired. And I had some notes already all set up for the show, so here we are. Sort of late to start the show. It's almost midnight. Getting late. Stick with me, folks. Episode 133 of Coast to Coast Pinball. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast. It's commentary. I'm a man out of quarters. How you doing? Long week. It's Friday night, January 30th, 2015, and I'm coming to you not live from the Coast to Coast Pinball studios in San Diego, California. The travel season for me is about to happen, and I mean that both with work and with play. My company that I work for doesn't have us district sales managers out on the road much from basically Thanksgiving to now, pretty much. And a week or so from now, I'll be heading into the cold Northeast to brave the New England and New York markets in the middle of winter. So that's to look forward to. Also, we have lots of pinball events, tournaments, things happening coming up. It's going to be a busy first half of the year. I put together a master calendar of work trips, pinball trips, and then both trips combined, and I'm out doing a lot. There's a lot going on. I have multiple emails going back and forth with multiple folks that are going to come on to Coast to Coast Pinball here in the next few weeks. Some really exciting guests soon, and some really exciting guests for a few weeks from now. And I think there's even more that I haven't reached out to yet that we need to get going. There's lots of stuff to talk about. Things are happening. It's good. Like I said, I was not going to do the show tonight. I had a showdown all sketched out, and I was just kind of holding on to it. So that's been sort of staring me in the face. That's done. So we're going to do that tonight. We have a showdown. We have a Super Pin wide body showdown happening tonight. But I'll tell you what I was doing. Teresa went to bed early. She's not feeling well. Watched my Arizona Wildcat basketball team, my team that I love to watch, get vengeance upon the Oregon State Beavers. And I started watching Papa TV Live. And I will tell you, if you are not watching Papa TV Live, which can be seen right now on Twitch, just search Papa TV Twitch. I believe it's twitch.tv/Papa TV Pinball, if you want to get exact. You should be watching Papa TV Live. The first, I think, 10 episodes or so, most of the 2014 episodes, and these shows started back in August of 2014, and these emanate from Carnegie, Pennsylvania, at the Papa World headquarters. Those shows are on papa.org and hosted on YouTube, so you can go there and check them out. The host of the show is John Replogle. I actually don't exactly know how to say John's last name. And John's, routinely ranked in the top 20, 25 players in the world, based in the Pittsburgh area. He's a consistent, what's the word I'm looking for? I see him everywhere, I guess. He's a constant on the pinball tournament circuit. I see him out everywhere. Super friendly guy. One of the nicest people I've met in kind of the tournament world and competitive side of pinball. John's a really good dude who had a really rough accident. We wish him the best in his recovery from almost cutting his hand off with a chainsaw. We're gonna go ahead and make an official Coast to Coast Pinball recommendation that world-class pinball players should avoid hand injuries with chainsaws, if at all possible. And I'm sure John knows that. It might be very obvious for most of you, but yes, we would avoid chainsaw to hand for world-class pinball players. And I'm going to go ahead and extend that out to all of you non-world-class pinball players as well. Avoid the chainsaw to the hand thing. So that's a serious thing. John really screwed his hand up, had to have some surgeries. I wish him speedy recovery. So I've been watching these shows, and I kind of forgot about them. I watched them in the fall, and then sort of just lost it for a little bit. Kind of forgot they were happening, and then saw the post on Pinside that they were going live, and they're broadcasting these shows live on Twitch. They have a chat room going so they can have listener feedback live, which is my personal nightmare, to think about doing this show and actually having people correct me as I go. Yikes, frightening. But it's a really cool environment, and I'll put it this way: it's, Papa and Mark Steinman obviously is also one of the constants on the show. And then they have a bunch of other, people in and out of the shows, different people playing, different people co-hosting. It's really sort of like, a different group of people. But the constants so far from when I jump around episodes, it seems to always be John and Mark. I've seen Fred Cochran. I've seen just a bunch of people. So anyway. The theme of the show, the idea of the show is, I think they have this awesome facility at Papa with all these games, right? One of the largest, best kept, most fantastic collections of pinball games in the world. So they'd like to show that off on some level. They also have built via their Kickstarter and via, their hard work, this really amazing broadcast booth at the Papa World headquarters because, they're putting on the World Championship of Pinball every year. They want to broadcast it, document it. It's history. If pinball ever does blow up, we are living in that early cool time where you could just wander into Papa and stand there and talk to the organizers, the top players, and just be right there at ground zero, stand right behind the best players in the world. So if pinball were to have this, we all think pinball's in a renaissance of sorts as far as buying games, collecting games, playing games, leagues and stuff. But if it were ever really to blow up and get big, which is a whole other conversation, really big, these are those kind of interesting times where anybody can get on board. It's not hard to just be a part of it, just be there for it. And it's pretty cool. And Papa has this fantastic ability right now to document the World Championships. And taking that a step further, if anybody saw the 3 episodes of the Papa TV Roadshow that Mark and his wife put together out on the road, you'll see that they're in this interesting, unique... They're at the front of it, I guess. They're like the tip of the arrow, kind of leading the charge of pushing pinball into the limelight. And I really liked those roadshow episodes. They were cool. I think those were probably... Obviously, the idea of just touring the country takes a lot of time on its own. But just putting together a 20 to 30-minute kind of webisode, TV-type show, the editing, the recording of it, the organization, that takes a lot of work. I mean, I can tell you just putting together this crazy podcast... if I stray outside my boundaries and try and do, silly production tricks, the time involved starts getting away from me very quickly. So I can only imagine when you start working in the video medium and trying to, go to pinball locations and make it compelling and make it sound and look good. It's tough. So I think the roadshow's on pause, obviously, for now. But the Papa TV Live idea is great because they have it all preset. They have cameras already on hand. They sort of led the charge in how do we show pinball machines being played with multiple cameras. That was definitely something that kind of emanated out of Papa. And you have these guys who I think they all play in leagues together and they run Papa together and whatnot, all in the local area. And let's be real, it's Pittsburgh. There's nothing else to do, right? I'm just kidding. When it's not hockey season, of course. But I think they have all this equipment, all these pinball machines. It's like, let's play with it. Let's do something. Let's put together. Let's be creative. Let's talk about pinball, because don't we all like talking about pinball? I love talking about pinball. So they're putting on this fantastic sort of... I certainly don't want to call it lo-fi, because it's not lo-fi, but it's a standardized format, much like the show you're listening to, that I think they can easily repeat on a every couple weeks sort of basis. And I love it. I love it. It's the way to do it, because you can get the content continually. Doing a edited show is tough and time consuming. Putting together something that sort of runs like a video cast on a continual basis is genius. It's fantastic. I love it. Basically, in a nutshell, what you're going to see on a Papa TV Live episode is commentary about players playing games. You might have world-class players. You might have local Pittsburgh players. They're going to play generally 3 games. You're going to get to see video of the game. You're going to get in-depth analysis or somewhat in-depth analysis, depending on what the game is and what the experience is with the people commentating on said game. You will learn something. I have never watched them, talk about and play a game and not learn stuff. And there's some interesting stuff. They play games. I think on the very first episode, the very first game they play on Papa TV Live, if I remember correctly, was Mustang, and they recorded that episode right after Papa 17. And you'll see all sorts of stuff. You'll see a wood rails game at some point. I know was on an episode I watched the other day. all sorts. They jump all around. It's really neat, and it's great. I think that there's sort of this, if you watch the Papa broadcasts, and John is one of the, the main people you'll hear announcing for the Papa broadcast. Got a great voice, super knowledgeable, great player, perfect. You'll see, though, that at times the problem we have in broadcasting pinball is, A, the games go on way too long. The finals for In-Disc, which also a very good broadcast from, a couple weeks ago here in California, with some really cool camera tricks like the tilt cam inside the thing. But those finals were, I think it was over a 5-hour broadcast. That's a long time. That doesn't really work for anybody but hardcore crazy people like you and me. And when you get into that situation where you're talking about, multiple hours of broadcasting pinball, you can't help but sort of getting into the real inside baseball, as they might say, kind of discussion and breakdown of the games, of the techniques, of the people. And to a casual observer, I think it would be pretty off-putting in general. Just in general. I think if you took somebody who didn't really know a lot about pinball and sat them in front of a Papa broadcast or an In-Disc broadcast or any other tournament, commentary, it would be too much, too deep. And Papa TV Live is sort of a nice way to pull that back a little bit, because you can sort of talk about the game, which I think is maybe a little more interesting to the casual fan. It's just like, here's the game. What are the features? What's going on with this game? And here is somebody playing it. So you can actually see the features, see the rule set, see everything kind of play out in front of you. Now, obviously, it's hard to always call your shots and do everything in line. And it's hard to know all the rules to every game. So I think they have their work cut out for them at times. But they're so comfortable with it. It works. I like it. I think if you're listening to this show, 133 episodes into Coast to Coast Pinball, you probably either know of Papa TV Live or have watched it or need to watch it. So anyway, I was watching that earlier and it got me all jazzed, just thinking about pinball, thinking about stuff, and thinking about why haven't I mentioned this on the show yet? And I felt guilty. So here I am. Props to the folks at Papa. For Papa TV Live. I'm really digging it, and you should definitely check that out if you're like me and you're always looking for more pinball content.
Forum static.
It's kind of forum static. It's a very specific part of the Pinside Pinball forums that sort of is driving this next little segment I'd like to talk about. But it's also my calendar, as I alluded to earlier. I've sort of laid out my 2015 to see what I get to do with pinball this year. And I missed In-Disc, which just absolutely infuriating to me, being 15 miles away from it. But if you knew what my trade show is like, you'd understand, I think. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing out in the world of pinball, besides playing on location, which I'll do every chance I get, I'm going to probably be able to check out Modern Pinball NYC in the not too distant future, and maybe 2-Bits Retro Arcade, and maybe Cave and Creek. We got some other options. The first event that I'm going to will be the Papa 18 World Championships in Carnegie, Pennsylvania in March. And I'm really excited about this because last year I was crazy intimidated. I played terrible. I didn't really know what to expect, I guess. I think I went in thinking these were going to be like the hardest games in the world. And it wasn't that the games were so hard. I think it's that I was so bad and the people around me were so good, maybe. So I'm pretty excited to go back to Papa. There's going to be an A, B, C, and D division at the tournament this year, which I think is a good thing. I have talked at length about that before, and we will probably talk about that some more leading up to the actual event. I know that a certain player who should be known by anybody following Papa from this last year, he and I have talked about having him come on the show, and I'd sort of like to do a Papa preview before the Papa 18 takes place and get some really great players' thoughts on, how they prepare, what their thoughts are. This year, Papa's in the spring this year, where it was typically a summer event. It's moved up to March 11th to the 15th. And Pinburg will now take its place in the summer and take place at the Replay FX Gaming Expo. So I will be at Papa for, I believe, probably Friday, Saturday, and possibly some of Sunday. That's my plan as of right now in March. Very excited about that. Not long after that, I will be heading to Texas, to the Texas Pinball Festival. Ed, over at the Texas Pinball Festival, friend of the show, Ed, he and I are sort of working right now on what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I want to do something fun that people there will enjoy. I don't want to talk about how I make my podcast. Boring. I want to do something that involves the show, what I see at the show, this show, and maybe do the show at the show, if that makes any sense. And I might be working on a little souvenir product, especially for these shows from Coast to Coast Pinball that you'll only be able to get if you're there. So we're working on that, and Texas is sort of, that's my first big red circle on my calendar of I need to be prepared for this one. We already know there's going to be awesome games there. We know there's going to be a great tournament there. There's going to be some great speakers there. There's going to be some announcements there. The Texas Pinball Festival is a big one. I think Texas Pinball Festival took a big step forward last year, and it probably is primed to do so again even farther this year. I know Spooky Pinball will be there. I know we'll see Multimorphic. I know we'll see Jersey Jack. I know we'll see Whizbang Pinball with Wonelli Juicy Melons, Steve Ritchie, George Gomez, John Trudeau, Mark Ritchie. Texas Pinball Festival, folks. It's going to be a big one, so I'm really, really excited about that. That is, of course, in Frisco, Texas, just north of Dallas, taking place March 27th, 28th, and 29th. Go to the website, texaspinball.com, note the logo, and deduce from that what you will. And that's all we'll say about that. So, past Texas, I'm definitely going to the Midwest Gaming Classic. I think I said that on Facebook. If you follow me on Facebook, I posted Midwest Gaming Classic looks to be a go. It fit my work schedule just absolutely perfect. Got a nice invite from friend of the show, Mark, over at Midwest Gaming Classic, invited me to come back up there to take part. I just almost can't miss it. It's an interesting show in that the action all happens Saturday and Sunday, so it means I can get in Friday night after I work and then have the whole show ahead of me Saturday and Sunday in Brookfield, Wisconsin. There will be a lot more information on the Midwest Gaming Classic as we get a little bit closer. So past Midwest Gaming Classic, I'm trying to mix it up a little bit this year. I'm trying to scoot my schedule around. Some out of my want to see other places and talk about them for you, fair listeners in the Netherlands, where did I get an email from the other day? Croatia. For you guys, because you're probably not going to get to go to all these. And I have a chance to go to a lot of them. So I very much am trying to get to the Ann Arbor Pinball Showcase Festival. That's Clay Harrell's VFW Pinball project and collection. And I want to make that happen in Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's a big one. I'd really like to do that. I think it's a shame I have not yet gone to Rocky Mountain Pinball Showdown, so I'd like to get to at least one day of that in Colorado. Doing everything I can to return to the Southern Fried Game Room Expo in Atlanta, Georgia. I am registered, one of the 700 registered for Pinburg. It's over my birthday. A certain beautiful woman that I'm married to and I live with does not really want me to leave her on my birthday. I know it's my birthday, but she is emotional about that, so we're still discussing. I think we're going to make that happen. And I had other shows that I wanted to go to, so since I can't go, I would ask you, if you're near, go and support these shows. ZapCon in Phoenix, it just lines up badly for me. The Louisville show, I've heard nothing but great things about the show in Louisville. By all means, please get out there. The Northwest Pinball Show, which I attended last year, cannot make it this year. It doesn't work. There's more later in the year. There's Allentown. I'll be at Expo. And there's about 4 others. Pinagogo doesn't look good for me. I think there's something else going on that weekend. It's just there's so many happening and so many things crossed up, and I might be on the East Coast when things start. So, those are the ones I'm trying to get to this year. Pinball at the Zoo. I want to talk about Pinball at the Zoo. Pinball at the Zoo is a long-running pinball event. I believe 16 years, if I have that right. Let me get their website pulled up. Yes, I'm gonna get this straight. Nothing but facts here on Coast to Coast Pinball. It is the 16th annual Pinball at the Zoo, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th, 2015, at the Kalamazoo County Expo Center. I remember when I first heard about Pinball at the Zoo, in my head, I thought, oh, they take pinball machines to a zoo. That's interesting. Why? And I didn't understand it was Kalamazoo. See? I can be really dumb sometimes. But anyway, it's at the Kalamazoo County Expo Center on the Kalamazoo Fairgrounds. I think that that is one of the best regional local shows put on, based on feedback I've gotten from people listening. There's a Whopper points qualifying tournament. There's a classics tournament. They have lots of other events going on. Go to pinballathezoo.com and you can check out photos all the way back, I think to like 2000 maybe, and you'll see lots of different great memories from their history, and then more coming this year when you go to Pinball at the Zoo. So that segues me into friend of the show, Ryan Claytor, who you may know from designing the Pinside t-shirt and poster this past year. Ryan has designed the Pinball at the Zoo t-shirt and poster, and it's very cool. I think it's a pretty awesome design, actually. It's how do I describe this piece of artwork? I'm trying to get it pulled up on my screen here. So it's a bunch of folks from medieval times, I guess, who are standing around a pinball machine made out of like logs and wood, and they're playing, and there's a fire on top of the pinball machine as a topper, and it's there's an ogre guy wearing moose horns as a hat, holding a club. There's swords. There's a maiden. The whole deal. It's very cool, and it's very Ryan. If you know Ryan's art style, this is right up his alley. They're doing a T-shirt for the show, which I think you have to buy at the show at this point. At least they had a pre-order going, and they also have a poster printed on real high quality stock. You can find that on Pinside. If you go into Pinside and go to events and look for the Pinball at the Zoo poster pre-order, that is there. So support that, please. If you're looking for pinball art for your game room, that's a nice piece for sure. Ryan does a nice job. So please support if you will. Oh, it's a showdown, all right. We're doing a Williams Super Pin wide body showdown tonight. In this corner, which is not really a corner, it's just one side of my mind, we have Judge Dredd, all right? And in this corner, also not a corner, right side of my mind, Demolition Man, all right? Are we up for that, everybody? Showdown, Judge Dredd, Demolition Man? All right, so the reason these two... Judge Dredd and Demolition Man are both games that for a long time I sort of avoided, and then I owned both. And I sold both. And I thought these would be good ones because they're both games that sort of have a loose tie to Sylvester Stallone or a absolute direct tie to Sylvester Stallone. Demolition Man, obviously, the movie is the theme. Stars Sylvester Stallone. I will get this right. He's in the back glass, front and center. Judge Dredd, there was a movie made that starred Sylvester Stallone, although the pinball machine, thankfully, is not based on it. It's based on the comic book that inspired the movie. I think we're going to have a great showdown here. So, here we go. If you haven't listened before, what we do in Showdown is we take two games, we pit them against each other, we talk about them, we rank them, we give winners in categories to theme, design layout, toys, gameplay, art, sound, lastability, and value, and we declare a winner of the showdown. So, first category for this showdown. Well, let's give a summary first. Okay, Judge Dredd, Williams game, January 1993, currently ranked number 45 on the Pinside Top 100. It's a top 50 game designed by John Trudeau. He often mentions this as his favorite game he ever designed. They built about 7,000 of them, right around 7,000 of them. What I would say about this game is some of the unique features that we'll get into in depth as we go through the gameplay is no pop bumpers, the Super Game extra gameplay option on this, big rotating disc with a mod for the aftermarket to I'm blanking on what it's called, the Planet mod for Judge Dredd. That's something people talk about. It's a game that people seem to be very divided on. I meet people all the time who love this game, who say, this is my favorite pinball machine. And then I meet people who are like, yeah, I don't like that game at all. I kind of fall somewhere in the middle, honestly. You'll hear as we go. Demolition Man, second game I ever owned. Owned it for a very short period of time. Never, at the time, fell in love with it. Grown to like this game a lot. When you think about this game, you're going to think about the handle flipper dealies, the gun handle flippers that are up above the side rails, so you can play with either the flippers on the side like a normal pinball machine, or you can play with the handheld flipper guns. Fast game combos, that's what I think of with Demolition Man. Another game that seems to be having a little bit of a resurgence right now. I'm seeing more and more about Demolition Man, and I feel like there's been some Demolition Mans that have been maybe like just cleaned up and lit up with LEDs, and people have kind of looked at it and thought, oh wait, that's actually pretty cool. So I feel like it's having a little bit of a resurgence. So let's get into the showdown. We are going to start with the theme. All right. So if we look at Judge Dredd, the theme is based on the comic books of Judge Dredd. It's a dark theme. It's a black comedy dark theme with lots of death, lots of dying, and they don't pull any of that out for the pinball machine. There is people dying, there's snipers, there's the monsters, there's all this stuff that's dark and evil. There's the Dead World planet. It's a cool theme. It's comic book theme before comic book themes were so commonplace in pinball, right? But it's also sort of an off the beaten path comic book theme. And a lot of people, when you say Judge Dredd, especially people in my generation, think of the movie. Think of the Sylvester Stallone movie. Square-jawed Sylvester Stallone playing the square-jawed big tough Judge Dredd. And there's been another Judge Dredd movie since. But the theme here is, I think, much better ignoring that horrible movie and ignoring Sly Stallone. Integration of that theme into the game, I think it's fantastic. I don't know the comic book at all. I don't know the story that well. But when you play this, I think you get a pretty good idea of what's going on. It takes the crime aspect in this, kind of dark world that Judge Dredd lives in with these horrible, evil boss guys, the judges, and it kind of incorporates that into the gameplay and the way the rules work out with the different crimes being committed, and there's humor based with some of the crimes that pop up, and some of the modes that you start are sort of joking and humorous. I think the theme integration is really, really good on Judge Dredd. That's one of its high spots to me. Demolition Man. Demolition Man is one of those unfortunate pinball machines that was based on a very, in the moment movie or license. And I would definitely think most people listening would agree with me when I say this one didn't hold up. I don't think anybody views Demolition Man as a classic sci-fi or whatever you want to call it type of movie. Teresa probably loves it, but I haven't seen it in years and years and years and years. It starred Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. Snipes was this crazy guy. Stallone was the hero. Sandra Bullock was looking good. Whatever. So bad theme, I think, in a lot of ways. Although I think anytime you have this sort of sci-fi theme with terms like crypto freeze or cryo claw and all this stuff, that sort of lends itself to pinball because you can tie that in with futuristic vibes, and it works okay. That's all right. Integration, I think they got a little lost here on Demolition Man. I didn't give you a summary, but Demolition Man was built in February of 1994. It's a Dennis Nordman design. It's the number 78 game on the Pinside Top 100, so not ranked as high as Judge Dredd. But I think they got a little carried away with the gun handle grips and the car crash scene that they talk a lot about in the promotional materials from back at the time of Demolition. There's a little car that you crash in on the left-hand side of the playfield. If you didn't really know what you were looking at walking up to a Demolition Man, let's say the back glass was gone. If the back glass was off of Demolition Man, I don't think you'd have any idea what you were looking at. unless you maybe recognize Wesley Snipes' weird little Z haircut thing. So I would say, overall, looking at theme versus theme, this is a pretty clear win for Judge Dredd. So Judge Dredd gets the checkbox in theme here in Showdown. Design and layout. This is I think this one will stir some controversy to some people because they're very different. We're talking about wide body games here. So these are Super Pins. These are the wide body games. This is Twilight Zone, Indiana Jones, Popeye. These games, Roadshow, I'm probably missing one here. But it's tough to lay these games out. I think it was tough for the designers back then to go from what they knew and had always designed to this wide body format. You have extra space you need to fill, and these games take pretty different approaches. And they end up coming out with very different types of games. Judge Dredd has the classic John Trudeau bank of drop targets as one of the focal points. It has the dead world spinning above it. It has a left orbit loop, a left ramp. It has a right ramp, and then sort of a system of like little loops and shots that are tucked up into the upper right that play with one of the 4 flippers in this game. It's a 4 flipper game. Your 2 standard flippers, you have a mid left side flipper, and then you have a mini flipper, sort of 2/3 of the way up, that has a couple different shots. And I will give them this. There's actually multiple things you can do with that little mini flipper. It's not a one-shot pony there. It's a couple shots. There's wireforms. There's no other playfields per se, but you do get a sense of depth with this game just based on the sniper tower where it shoots the ball up into the wireform to return to the left in lane, and then you have a right ramp which immediately returns you to the right in lane. One of the unique designs on this game is there is an in lane and an out lane on both sides. I believe there's actually maybe 2 in lanes on the right side if I remember correctly, and a left and a right out lane. There's a left in lane, then there's the left out lane, but there's also a far left lane which has an auto shoot like plunger over there. So left of the left out lane is another little lane which you drop into, which will shoot your ball right back. It's like a missile shot. And there is also a mode and a time period where your ball goes in there and you have to time your shot to hit an objective. So pretty cool. And the first time you do it and see that all happen, it's pretty neat. So interesting layout choices here. This game doesn't play like any other game. I think Judge Dredd is actually very, very unique. It's pretty quick. There's no pop bumpers on Judge Dredd, and a lot of people really are bothered by that. I had real issues with this game because I felt that there was a couple really easy shots and then a couple just absurdly difficult shots that almost kind of bummed me out on this game. The captive balls were a very difficult shot to hit all 3 captive balls because there's 3 captive balls held on the far right side. And I know it sounds like I'm talking about all these different things. These wide body games pack a lot in. I thought that was a really tough shot. But then like the sniper tower, which is like the deep right far shot off the left flipper, it was just like, that was so easy. It's like I almost couldn't not hit that shot. And I thought the ramps were both actually rather difficult shots. So there's the bank of 5 drop targets. What I loved about the 5 drop targets on Judge Dredd is behind the middle of those, there was a subway shot where you could shoot the ball down in the subway. And I really liked that. And then that popped up on the left side and had a wireform that brought you down to the left in lane. So layout, it's interesting, it's cool. There's flashers above both ramps, like police light flashers. The spinning dead world is just one of the cooler kind of things happening on a pinball machine as it turns. So definitely interesting, definitely Trudeau, but with some really unique ideas here in the early 90s for this game. All right, so when you look at Demolition Man's layout, a whole different animal here. Demolition Man really is all about flow. You do have pop bumpers. You do have traditional kind of rollover targets above them. So you go over your rollover targets down into the pops. That's pretty standard. You have, I'm counting across because this is sort of a modified fan layout. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through the middle with the third flipper. It's a 3 flipper game. 6, 7, 8, 9 major shots on this. Not including like some anything's like a stand-up target type shot, just like 9 major paths for the ball to flow. So there's a lot going on. This is called by many the fastest wide body game ever made. Big inserts on the design of this. There's wireform ramps again. I had trouble with this game early on because I just never really knew what I was doing, and I was not a very good pinball player at all, and I just sort of got eaten up by this because you need to have some accuracy on this game. There's some straight down the middle danger for you depending on how you shoot this game. I always felt that it was like a crowded layout with all these different shots, and we'll get into this with the artwork, I guess, but there's just something very mishmashy about this. And the main toy we'll talk about in toys is the cryo claw in the upper left. And I see what they were doing. I like what they were kind of going for. I felt like they used up a lot of space in the design of this that could have been done elsewhere, because at the end of the day, I feel like this is just sort of like loops and ramps. And actually, if you are into flow and you want something different, it's great for that. As I've gotten to be a better player, I actually appreciate this design a little bit more. I still don't like some of the artwork. I still don't really love some of the intricacies with the way the inner shots work, but that's just me, in my opinion. So, if I'm talking about design and layout, I have a tough time. I want to say Judge Dredd. I really do, because I think Judge Dredd is a little more unique. I don't love the lack of pop bumpers, but at least they were doing something different. At least Trudeau was going outside the norm. I'm giving it a tie. I'm calling this a tie against my better judgment for design and layout. Let's move to the toys. This one is pretty obvious, I think. So if we look at the toys, I think Judge Dredd is pretty famous for the Dead World spinning, planet system that we know, and the crane that drops the ball onto that. And that crane is something that is a problem for a lot of games that might not have been cared for. And that is the main toy quote of this game. There's really nothing else on this game. It's that when you shoot up there and load your balls in there to get multi-ball going, the crane moving the balls on to the dead world, that's really your toy. Past that, you have ramps, you have shots, you have vertical up kicker, you have drop targets. There's no other toys to speak of. On Demolition Man, you have the cryo claw. You have a shot where you get the ball up into the upper left area, and you actually have a magnetic claw that you move around to 5 different spots where you can drop the ball, and you drop the ball yourself with the buttons on the gun handles. So, very interesting, very unique, player-controlled magnetic cryo claw. And there's 5 features you can do with that. And I think that just obviously the other toy that you might see when you look at Demolition Man is the handles, the way you play the game. I've never been a guy who used those handles to play Demolition Man. I prefer the flippers myself. Some people absolutely think you're ridiculous to play this game without using the gun handles. I'm a flipper guy. I think when you look at the toy battle here, Demolition Man wins on the toys in Showdown. Gameplay. So this one is interesting in that I have never really loved the gameplay of Judge Dredd. I'm into drop targets. I love some drop targets, but that alone does not save this one for me. The gameplay is disjointed to me on this game a little bit. Some people will tell you this is their favorite game. It's their favorite game to play. They love the ramps. They love the difficult shots. The inner loop systems that you get going, so that with the upper mini flipper, and then you can get loops going with the upper left full-size flipper, is pretty cool. But I just never felt the space was used very well in this game. And there's a lot of wide open space in this game. I always tried to make this game pretty steep because I wanted it to be quick. Because if this game's flat, you get a lot of side-to-side action, and the outlanes will eat you up. And it's difficult. It's hard for that. And also remember, it's a Trudeau design, so you have a wider flipper gap. So I always felt that this game had some shortcomings in the gameplay side. Demolition Man, I was never very good at, and that's altogether a different thing. Demolition Man, I think, actually completed the task of making a wide-body game that flowed, that was fast, that was, really like quick and exciting and go, and hit that, those inner loop shots. I think the inner loop shots on Demolition Man trump the inner loop shots on Judge Dredd, and therefore that will be my final decision, that Demolition Man wins on the gameplay showdown. All right, let's look at the artwork. I don't think I need to go too deep into this. The back glass on Demolition Man is atrocious. It's horrible. Apparently, as the story goes, it was a tough design, too, because Wesley Snipes kept rejecting the artwork and didn't like the way he was being portrayed. That's actually not what Sandra Bullock looks like. I think that's what Sandra Bullock would probably like to have looked like. But that's not exactly what she looks like. I don't like that back glass one bit. The artwork on the playfield, uninspired, is what I would have to go with. It is uninspired. It is hand-drawn, so this is pre any ideas of photoshopping pictures from movies onto a playfield or using cut-and-paste techniques. It is hand-drawn Stallone facing off against Wesley Snipes. This is one of those games with big, huge, bubbly inserts, both triangular and circular, that I don't like. Like I said before, looking at this game, if you didn't know what you're looking at, you would have no idea what the theme of this game is. The artwork doesn't get you there. There is a little bit of a claw piece of artwork sort of on the playfield that I think I never noticed until I looked at a photo of this playfield just to judge the artwork, that there is a little claw holding a man. There's some explosions happening. Other than that, it's pretty bad. And this game with old incandescent bulbs just looks dull and boring, and the plastic gets kind of yellowed out in the upper level by the claw. This game can look really bad. However, go to YouTube and just search for Demolition Man videos. There are some beautiful Demolition Mans out there. With the right lighting, this game can really look great. And I would hope that if you own a Demolition Man, you take the time to clean up your plastics, clean up your wireforms, and put great LED lightings in there. But I think the artwork on Demolition Man is pretty bad. It's funny. The one thing about the artwork that I do like, I like the cabinet artwork on Demolition Man a lot. It has a nice 3D dimension to it. It's sort of like a futuristic, like, laboratory type vibe, I guess. And I like the logo. I really like that. That's the high spot of the artwork. And when the sides of the cabinet, which you generally don't see, are the high spots of your artwork, you're in for trouble. When you're going up against a game like Judge Dredd, which is pulling its artwork off of a very classic comic book and not redoing it, but sort of using that comic book artwork as your basis, you're going to lose. Judge Dredd is going to beat you on the artwork. The back glass is awesome. There's a great action scene with the judge on his motorcycle coming right at you, with all the dark judges behind you, with the female character of the comic, whose name I cannot remember at this time, is on there. It's a pretty rad back glass. As far as playfield artwork goes, it's one of the busier playfields because there's so much space to fill. It's awesome. You've got Judge Dredd right front and center, with the light of the motorcycle being your shoot again insert. You've got the judges listed across the top. They're dark and scary. It's a pretty great art package. I think it's a beautiful game. I know that Pinside user Bakushan, who I believe has been lately going by his real name, which I believe is Jared. I'm up way too late and blanking on people's names. His Judge Dredd that he brought to Texas at the Texas Pinball Festival last year was beautiful, LED'd out, tricked out. It was a highlight of the show for many. So I like what you can do with this game. Mine with LEDs that I used to own looked very good too. It was one of my first attempts at really playing with LEDs in a game. Loved it, the way it looked at least. Hands down, the artwork showdown goes to Judge Dredd. Sound. I had to actually go watch videos of Demolition Man because I couldn't remember the music, and I'll tell you why. They use theme music from the soundtrack to the movie, and it's very, thematic. It sounds like a movie, like it sounds like Star Wars or something like that, like orchestrated. It's cool. It's fine. The call-outs are pretty good. It's not bad. I like it. There's some good change in the pace of the music with the modes. It's very appropriate. I like it. Judge Dredd has a terrible theme song. I don't like the theme song to Judge Dredd at all. It's this like weird post-80s rock thing done in the 90s with like a little slower groove and this kind of like overplayed guitar solos, and I don't like it. Some of the call-outs are really funny in Judge Dredd. But there's like a feature, one of the modes, which is the imposter. I'm forgetting all the exact names of the modes, but there's a mode based around the drop targets where there's a guy on stage and you're throwing tomatoes at him by hitting the drop targets, and and he's playing like all shook up like Elvis type song. I don't like that sound. I used to hate that. It really drives me crazy. And the theme song to Judge Dredd would get stuck in my head from playing it too long, and I didn't like that. The coolest thing about the sound in Judge Dredd, there was sounds of the judges when you would like fighting the judges, which were really cool and like dark and evil sounding. I liked that. However, that theme song cannot win. It cannot win. So Demolition Man will win the sound here. Last ability. I have to give this one to Demolition Man. This is totally a call on my part. Judge Dredd is sort of the way you play the modes and the difficult challenge it is to get through the whole thing, to get to the ultimate battle or whatever they call it. It didn't capture my imagination for very long. The super game aspect of Judge Dredd, which I should talk about, there's a second game. We start with a separate button, which is like instant, like 6-ball, multi-ball, just getting right into it with separate rules and separate things to go for. It's kind of cool, but seems gimmicky and not really something I did much of when I had it. Demolition Man was sold to acquire other games. I probably would have kept it a while longer. I'll put it this way. Going back and playing a Judge Dredd recently and then playing a Demolition Man recently, I'm much more drawn to Demolition Man now. The combos that you can get going on Demolition Man draw me in. The speed of it draw me in. The shots off the middle flipper draw me in. I'm not a big fan of the artwork. Don't like the theme. But as a pinball machine and playing and flipping, Demolition Man wins last ability for me. Value. Here's an interesting one because these games sell for roughly the same price, give or take a few $100s. I think Judge Dredd probably gets a little bit more money if it's in good condition. In Southern California, it seems to, at least. I looked up pricing on these games. Judge Dredd tops out, I think it's average over the last 12 months or so on eBay is around $2,300. Demolition Man's around $2,000. I think, it's going to be your personal preference if you like the theme. If you're buying for the home environment and you really like the Judge Dredd artwork, that may tip you that way. But as far as value for what you're getting, I think they're both fairly equal. Neither game is ultra deep. Both have rules and multiple multi-balls you can find and get. Same era, obviously coming out of Williams in the early 90s. So the value to me is probably a tie. I think where I'm going to give a winner here. I won't have two tie categories. If you can find not a project game, but a little more of a player's game, I think you're going to get a better deal on a Demolition Man. And I may need to do more research on that, but my gut instinct is you can get a little bit better deal on Demo Man. So the value, I think, is going to go there. So when I add this up, I have 4 check marks on the Judge Dredd side, and I have 5 check marks on the Demolition Man side. Judge Dredd is ranked 45 in the Pinside Top 100. Demolition Man ranked 78. My gut instinct that sometimes can sway the showdown, because that's my showdown. This is Coast to Coast Pinball Showdown. Today, 2015, the winner for me is Demolition Man. Demolition Man wins. So congratulations, Dennis Nordman. Today, you beat John Trudeau. Demolition Man over Judge Dredd. It's just a shame on the artwork. I guess that's so. That's what I got on that one. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. That would be episode 133 of Coast to Coast Pinball. The t-shirt sale that we started last episode has been busy. I've sold over 2/3 of the shirts I was trying to sell. I'm running out of some sizes I'll be pulling off the website. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. I don't make much money on these at all, if anything, depending on where I'm shipping to. When I get down to this price, this is more of just clearancing out t-shirts, getting them out to listeners, and thinking about what we're going to do next on that front. If you want to email me, it's coast2coastpinball@gmail.com. That's coast, number 2 coast, pinball@gmail.com. Follow me here on Facebook, like us on Twitter, and play some pinball. We will talk to you again soon. Take care. Sorry, Linda and Doug. Sorry.